My name is Will Phillips. I'm the state director with AARP, and we're really pleased to be up here in Grand Rapids today. I want to thank everybody at Blandon Foundation for hosting us. We're here today to recognize the 2019 Andrus Award for Community Service winner. And this is always one of the highlights of our year at AARP. It's an award that recognizes the great strengths of our state, the great strengths of older adults here in Minnesota, and really a recognition of who AARP and what AARP is as an organization. We're going to bring up some other folks from our staff and volunteer team here in a little bit. But AARP here in Minnesota represents some 660,000 Minnesotans. A lot of people know us because maybe they get the magazine in the mail, see the ads on television, recognize that maybe AARP fights in Congress for things like Social Security and Medicare. But increasingly, we're trying to be, and I think are, a very local organization. I think we recognize that whether it's local elected officials, citizens who take up a cause and don't let go of it until they get it done, whatever it may be, real change is happening at the local level. And so our job is to empower people to choose how they live as they age and to really catalyze organizations and individuals to make that change. And I think that's really why we're here today. The other thing I think has been a sea change for AARP is that we are increasingly a volunteer-driven organization. And we have two very special volunteers here with us today who are going to take us through the rest of our proceedings. And I'm going to start with Bill Lindbergh, a Grand Rapids native and also a member of the AARP Volunteer Executive Council. Bill.
All right. Thank you, Rob. So it's a pleasure to be back in my hometown. I grew up 4 blocks south of here and spent 16 of my first 18 years going across the bridge. It's awfully nice to have a new bridge over here, the pedestrian and bicycle bridge. But I just briefly want to mention and amplify some of the things that Will had said. One of the missions of AARP is to work toward establishing more livable communities for residents of all ages, abilities, and disabilities. So it was a delight this year when the public art of the canoe and kiosk and benches on the pedestrian and bicycle bridge were selected from over 55 grant applications throughout the state of Minnesota to be funded by our national office program. So I had a wonderful bit of news when that came through, impacting the Grand Rapids community. I want to acknowledge Sandy Lehman from the legislature. Sandy, thank you for being here today. And Tom Pagel, our city administrator, also here, and he'll be back up shortly. So there are a lot of community challenges that we face, as I mentioned, and this community challenge grant was a wonderful part of that. But I think it's just a wonderful day to be here and celebrate Myrna and all that she has given to this community. So I'm going to turn it over to Kate Schaefer's, our volunteer state president of AARP Minnesota. So Kate, you're up.
Thank you, Bill and Will. We're here to talk about Myrna Petersen and to honor her, but I want to start off with telling you a little bit about the person who this award is named after, Dr. Ethel Percy Andrus. She's the founder of AARP, and I do think Myrna, as I talk a little bit about her, you're going to find that she's a kindred spirit. So let me tell you a little bit about her background. Dr. Ethel Percy Andrus was a teacher, as you are as well. And she was also the first principal in the state of California. So she was also a trailblazer and was able to make real change happen in the education system in California. She had a friend or a colleague who was another teacher who she visited and found her living in a chicken coop. So as an educator for her whole life, she saw that she was still living in poverty, a woman educator. And Ethel Percy Andrus said we needed to do something about this, that this was injustice. So we needed to look at how do we support older people as they age, how do we help make sure that they have health insurance and living conditions that are dignified. And so as we honor Myrna, we also think of Dr. Andrus, and she was a person of action. She got a lot done. She harnessed her skills to change the life of others. Our CEO, Joanne Jenkins, described Dr. Andrus as a teacher, a patriot, a mentor, a leader, a visionary, a trendsetter, a disruptor, an advocate, and an innovator, and a voice for older adults trying to get by. I think every one of those words we could have said about Myrna. And so, you know, as we look at this award, we're just so thrilled to be honoring Myrna through this. Dr. Andrus also focused on independence, dignity, and purpose for all people, older adults included. And again, she founded the National Retired Teachers Association, which later became AARP in 1958. So here we are over 60 years later, and our purpose still remains the same, to empower people to choose how they live as they age. And so our annual Andrus Award for Community Service is AARP's most prestigious and visible volunteer award. And we award this to one person in our state every year, and we've selected Myrna. Now I do want to say, yeah, we can clap. We can clap. And I want to say I had the great honor of being on the selection committee. And as you can imagine, I mean, we all know in our communities across our state, we have amazing people doing innovative and groundbreaking work in our communities. But when we read the nomination for Myrna, I think we all just sighed and said, I think we found our winner. I mean, we were so moved by what she's done in this community over the course of her life. And I think that we were just so thrilled to be honoring her with this, seeing this as a community service award for her lifetime of work. And I would also like to mention, you know, we have a couple of things that we recognized as we looked at Myrna's work. And one of the things that stood out was her work with the Accessible Playground in Ball Club. Now we're going to hear a little bit about this because we also have some guests that are going to tell us more about that process. But just looking at working across generations, involving our youth in changing their community and impacting their community is priceless. I mean, that Myrna was able to work across generations to make that happen. Becky LaPlante is the person who nominated her, and she shared quite a bit of her work with the Ball Club project. But that vision and that ability to take action is just so wonderful to see. And then also with Taylor O'Shea, and I'm going to introduce them both in a minute. I would also like to just say that, you know, we are so thrilled to be here today. We're so thrilled to look at how Myrna has impacted the community, not just with this one project, but also across all of the work that she's done to make accessibility something that goes beyond ADA compliance, but is part of how this community operates. And so that is just a huge impact on the community. And I also was just so excited to see how you have fun with purpose as well. Myrna brought together the community to win a Guinness Book of World Records for the longest moving wheelchair line with 351 people in wheelchairs wheeling for 3 minutes. So for a community in Grand Rapids to pull together something like that must have been phenomenal and fun as well. So that's just wonderful. And Myrna, you credit your faith and your role models in your life who have shown you how to navigate through hardship, but I also think that you're inspiring others as well to do the same and to take every day as it comes and make action happen, make it a better community. So I just want to say a huge thank you for all the work you're doing, and just it's such an honor. Along with this honor, so we're honoring her with this, we're also making a contribution. So Myrna got to decide how we wanted to contribute $1,000 to what community organization, and she has decided she wanted to donate this to Ball Club Accessible Playground Project, which is part of Mobility Mania nonprofit. So thank you from the community also for your decision. So now I would like to introduce two of our guests who are going to tell us more about this. So we have Taylor O'Shea, who's going to talk about this Ball Club project, as well as we have Becky LaPlante, who also worked with that. So Becky and Taylor. Would you like me to bring this over?
Sure, I can go there. Okay. Okay, so I'm going to talk a little bit about how Myrna is helping drug use. Hi, my name is Taylor. I'm 12 years old, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about how Myrna has helped me throughout the past couple of years. It all started when I participated in the Myrna Mania. We broke the world record for 351 wheelchairs rolling in a consecutive line for 3 minutes. The purpose was to raise awareness to accessibility in our community. My papa, Paul Shanhar, had always been in touch with her since. I love how Myrna is always trying to make sure our community is wheelchair accessible. One day, our van broke down. We were without a van for a few weeks. Then, we found an old wheelchair accessible van to use for a while. I named it Peanut. Peanut wasn't working too well. We decided it was time for a new van. We called up Myrna, and she was happy to have a meeting with us. My family couldn't afford a new van at the moment, so we thought we should have a fundraiser. Myrna arranged meetings, and we planned our fundraiser. After we had a set date, we started thinking about raffle prizes and auction items. Myrna helped us get raffle tickets to sell. We sold so many. We even had an ad on TV. Before we knew it, it was the day of the event. People came and went throughout the afternoon. By the end of the night, including checks and donations, we had raised $28,000. That was more than enough to get me the van that brought me here today. We could not have done any of this without Myrna. Currently, Myrna is helping out with a Park for Ball Club, which is a fundraiser we've been working on for the past 3 years to build an accessible community park that all community members, young, old, and everyone in between can use. Some community members from Ball Club are helping out to plan, design, and build this park. I am so thankful to have Myrna in my life. I'm so happy she won this award. She really deserves it. Thank you, Myrna.
Megwitch Taylor. Hi, everybody. When I have a microphone in my hand, and I'm in Grand Rapids in our home community, I always like to, before I say anything else, acknowledge that we are located on the homeland of the Anishinaabe, Ojibwa Nation. We acknowledge that we are located on land ceded in the Treaty of Washington, commonly known as the 1855 Treaty, which affirms the rights and doctrine and inalienable rights of Ojibwe people to uphold their interminable relationship to the landscape as originated from Gitche-Manadu. We are grateful guests and strive to be good stewards of this place and our privilege here. So, thank you. We've been planning this day for a while, and I'm really glad it's here. I've been an AARP member for a few years now, and I was thumbing through my AARP bulletin that I get in the mail, and the Andrus Award for Community Service caught my eye. And seriously, I didn't even think twice, and the nomination wrote itself, essentially. I knew right away that Myrna was the person who needed to have this award, and I wrote it and sent it off. And at the time that the award nomination came out, Myrna was working really hard on a grant to an organization called Paul's Pals, and she was working on a letter of inquiry for that organization. And so we were working pretty close together and communicating a lot. And one of the criteria of this award is that you have to let the person who you're nominating know you're nominating them. And so I said, Myrna, I've nominated you for this award. And she was like, oh, yeah, let's get back to work. So for those of you who know Myrna, you know that this is how she is. She's not motivated to do what she does because of the recognition for the things that she does. She's motivated because there's something intrinsic inside of her that motivates her to work in such strong ways in community. So I'd like to share with you a portion of the nomination that I wrote for you, and you haven't even heard this yet. So this is like, oh, here we go. So this is part of the nomination. Myrna has been a force in our community for years, advocating for accessible public spaces for people with mobility challenges. A few years ago, she started coming to the Circle of Healing, a group that I facilitate. She attends all the meetings, contributes to discussions, and steps up to work on projects. A little over 2 years ago, and this was written in July of last year, we started working with a group of young people in Ball Club, Minnesota, a small community on the Leech Lake Reservation. When asked what would be meaningful in their community, the youth envisioned a park with a playground where they could safely play and be together. Building a playground is no small task, and building a playground that's accessible is a costly proposition. But everyone involved, young and old alike, committed to building a park where all can feel welcome. Despite her own physical challenges, Myrna has spent the last year researching and writing grants to cover the costs of accessible equipment and surfaces. As the search for funds continues, Myrna most recently led a grassroots fundraising benefit for the park that raised $12,000. This benefit was modeled off the one she spearheaded that Taylor just told us about to buy a new van. Myrna is inspiring, period. In her family of origin and later after the accident that put her in a wheelchair, Myrna has had to deal with more adversity than many can imagine. She looks to the role models who have come before her and her strong faith to live each day with purpose. Myrna often says, "I have a thumb that works and a mouth that won't stop." She uses both every day to make positive change. She is not identified by her wheelchair, but by her passions. Myrna has a perseverance that's unstoppable. She says none of us are promised tomorrow. We need to learn from yesterday and live for today. She's the definition of aging with dignity and purpose, which is evident every day in how she chooses to show up in the world. So that's what I wanted to share with you about Myrna today.
Thank you, Becky. So Myrna, it is with my great pleasure that I award you, or that I share with you, this Community Service Award, this Andrus Community Service Award. So just put this here and we'll give you a chance to say a few words.
I don't do good at stuff like this. I usually can't get me to quit talking, but this is overwhelming. I look around and I see so many volunteers here that have been side by side on so many projects. And you know that it takes a village. It's just not one person. Any one of you could be up here giving this award because we work together as a community with common goals and common interests. I am so proud of this community because, you know, people say, well, I don't know if it can be done. Well, yes, it can. You just have to keep going. And one door shuts and you look for a window to sneak in. And I'm not opposed to using my wheelchair to run over somebody's toe. Not really. But it doesn't limit me and it doesn't define me. And I just appreciate being in a community that recognizes the value of everyone from age to age and whatever our abilities are. I'm so excited for the opportunities coming to our community for the enhancements in the arts. I just got asked to work on a production for seniors and people with different abilities at the Rice Center. And that sounds really exciting to me. So thank you everyone for coming. Thank you for the AARP. It's a wonderful organization. I even took the driver's ed class when I thought I was going to get driving abilities in my van. And then I got asked to be on the Governor's Council for Self-Driving. I thought, what the heck? Why don't I just let them drive me? I took that and then now I'm working real hard to get Grand Rapids to be a pilot site for self-driving in the winter time because we can guarantee them ice and snow. So thank you everyone. Couldn't have done this without all of your help. My family, they're real hard But also my caregiver, Cheryl, she is wonderful. She allows me the independence that I have to do these things. She's a wonderful person. She's like a sister to me, and I couldn't have the independent lifestyle without the kind of living that she's afforded me in her home. So, my faith, my kids, got it all. So thank you so much.
I particularly liked Becky's comment about aging with dignity and purpose. And I think that's an aspiration that we all share. And I think I remember the Die Hard battery commercial when they had a battery outside International Falls and showing how it could start in 40 below zero weather. I think when you're talking about these automated vehicles, Grand Rapids would be a great example of a winter city where anything is possible. So I want to call on Tom Hagel to kick it off, and a number of you that are here today may have some remarks to share, so if you want to do that, be thinking of what you might want to add. But I want to call upon Tom to start that process off. So Tom?
Thank you, Bill. On behalf of the City of Grand Rapids, Myrna, and personally, thank you. Thank you for what you do. Thank you for the AARP and awarding Myrna this award. I mean, it's just something really, really special. For those of you, and probably most of you in the room, if you're friends with Myrna, you probably know this history, but in 1990, the federal government passed the Americans with Disabilities Act. How many were aware of that? Quite a few, yeah. Good. And so for about the first 20 or 23 years, I would say, the City of Grand Rapids, like a lot of communities, would do what was regulated by them when it comes to improving ADA standards throughout the city, whether it's a bathroom, whether it's a ped ramp to get onto the sidewalk. And so we just kind of went in this zone and we did what we had to do. And I remember it was probably one of the first few weeks when I took over as city administrator, and this gal came in her wheelchair, and she said, I just drove my wheelchair up Highway 38, and you need to do something about those sidewalks. I said, well, we've got ped ramps out there now, and you should be able to go freely down the sidewalk. She goes, no, you don't understand. I rode it up the road because the joints are too rough. I'm not in a wheelchair. I wouldn't think about that. But she did it in a manner where she said, I would really appreciate if you would saw cut instead of joint. And so one of those aha moments where you go, wow, someone's in here and they're being proactive about improving things, and we can saw cut. That's not a big deal. And so we did, right? And so that was one of the changes we're making now in all of our projects. I mean, when you look at Myrna's approach and her style to advancing ADA, you oftentimes read about lawsuits and you read about very aggressive approaches to making communities and businesses comply. And what we really appreciate about Myrna is working together with us, and her group working together with us. You look at the volunteer work with the Boy Scouts, where they built tables for all of our parks. You look at the collaboration we did with the handicap swing at Crystal Lake Park, and next year with the merry-go-round that will be ADA accessible. Oh gosh, Myrna, there's so many of them that you've done with us, I'm starting to forget. But the point is, until her leadership came, and until it it interacted with city staff, ADA wasn't at the front of our brains. It was a secondary thought. And what she's done is she's taken our city staff and our council members, and she brought it to the front so that those are the first things we think about. How do we improve these physical assets for people with disabilities? So again, on behalf of the City of Grand Rapids, Myrna, keep it up, keep pushing us, and let's keep working together.
I once worked with Wilderness Inquiry for a while, which takes people of all ages, abilities, and disabilities on outdoor adventure trips, kayaking, dog sledding, canoeing, and so on. And one of the adages I had there from a board member was, well, Bill, we're all temporarily able-bodied if we live long. So this impacts all of us. And thank you again for your leadership. So are there other members of the audience who would like to say a few words in expanding our tribute to Myrna today? If you do, this microphone is ready and available, and love to have you say a few words. Chris Fulton, not a shy guy. Come on up, Chris.
And I did not know I was going to be doing this. Give me a microphone and I can at least say a couple of words, but I met Myrna, I think officially, at an event called the Grand Gathering. I'm Chris Fulton, by the way, director of the Community Foundation here in Grand Rapids. The Grand Gathering was a forum where local people bring their things they want to talk about and talk about them. You don't know what's going to come out of it. And we had, I think that particular day, we had about 30 different conversations, one of which was a conversation that Myrna led. And you kind of sign up and go, you know, you let your feet do the walking, and I'm going to go listen to Myrna because I'm interested in this topic. She was talking about creating a example of the most mobile county, mobility-friendly county, I should say, in Minnesota. And so out of that, you know, out of all those 30 discussions, this was the only one that really caught good traction. And out of that came an event called the Myrna Lee Mania. That's where the record was set at that particular event. And then soon after that, Myrna came and she said, well, we want to go further. And out of that was born Mobility Mania, Mobility for All Fund, which is housed at the Community Foundation, and which really provides the nonprofit background for the work that Myrna and the whole team does. And here's what I'd just like to say, because every time I turn around, it seems like Myrna's coming back. We want to do a fundraiser. We need a license for a raffle. Okay, Myrna will help you with that. We want to provide transportation for people with mobility issues when transportation is normally not available. Myrna will help you with that. And so a lot of this stuff is being done through this fund. But when I turn around, every time I turn around, Myrna's back at, we're going to put in a grant for this. We're going to do this. We're going to do this fundraiser. Myrna's the kind of person you can't say no to. And more importantly, you don't want to. Because everything Myrna does, there's so much community good that comes out of every project that Myrna and her team take on. It just happens, Myrna, and I just want to say thank you for what you do. You are a superstar in our community, and we would not be the same community if it were not for you.
Well, I want to give my bud and right hand Lisa credit too, because without her, you know, we kind of spur each other's on, and you know, she does an awful lot with me, so we make a good team. So Mobility Mania happened because of Lisa too.
Well, talk about you, but I start crying.
I did.
Yeah. Yeah.
I just appreciate everybody coming. This is amazing to me. I'm not often a loss for words, but yeah. I just said, well, nobody's gonna show up anyway. And voila. Again, so thank you so much. Yeah, any one of you could have gotten this award. Everybody in here, it takes a village, and you know, for me, like I said, I only have one thumb that works, but my mouth gets me in a lot of trouble. But sometimes we do good things too. You know, my church too, I couldn't do it without this support. I get to go to church every Sunday just because they bring me a flash drive to put it on ICTV and on our website. So I don't even have to miss church. So it's been wonderful. Most everybody lets me go by speakerphone to the meetings, so keep up to do with that. There's big things coming yet. I want to get that self-driving bus up here for a pilot. There's more things coming through our Council on Disability now. Some of our plans that we're working more collaboratively with the elderly, so AARP will be much more involved in that too, because we think there's so many similarities in those two programs. So I'm really looking forward to be a functioning part of that council, those two things, but I just appreciate this. Now I gotta keep going. Thank you.
Well, and I just want to say too, we've heard a lot of we's, and I think, Myrna, the sign of a real leader is also someone who can get everyone excited about what you're doing, and that's what you've done with other people, and that's really the magic here. Anyone else?
I think the sign, I've been doing professional and executive coaching for about the last 20 years, and a lot of that involves leadership development and so on. And one of the most remarkable characteristics of a good leader is they can become both humble and invisible, and the job gets done. And that's so much of what I've heard here today. But I just, growing up in Grand Rapids as a Lutheran kid, you learn all about humility. They emphasize that. And if you get too arrogant, you're going to get popped down in a hurry. And I think as I've gotten older, there's a place not only for humility, but just owning your gifts. And yet, as it's been said by many today, you're a gift to this community, you're a gift to the world, and you have a great gift to offer and a vision for the future that doesn't quit idle speed. So thank you so much. Anybody else? Auctioneers would say going once, going twice, whatever, but we don't have to be that formal about things. Anybody want to say something that hasn't been said?
Well, this is an AARP experience, but Myrna is bottom up. I treasure her as a friend, as she is to so many of you. But I've also seen little things along the way. You're driving along Golf Course Road, and there's Myrna in a vest with someone from the city, because in order for them to make decisions, they go through her committee. And then you're driving along 38 and you see all this sidewalk stuff changing at every corner. And I say, Myrna, does this have anything to do with you? Oh, I made a few phone calls. Her phone calls go right to the top. And then she's tooling along, and the guys are doing new work with a stoplight, and she stops and tells them it's not the right height. And they said, absolutely it is. We measured it. No, it's not. They re-measured. Oh, thank goodness. We would have had to do it all over again. It's all those little things. And then we both go to the same church, and you see her with the youth and the young people. Now, if you have a bunch of youth making rosettes for an event in the bazaar, who's there making it happen? she's not touching a thing, but she's directing everybody and it gets done. I just treasure her friendship, and we've had so much fun out at Camp Hiawatha and all those days of support. I mean, it goes on. And I tell you, if you ever have a bad day and then you think of Myrna, forget it. You know she is always in pain. Now, how would you do? I don't do well with a cold. So she's a treasure and a God-given gift to all of us, and I'm so grateful for you.
Last summer on Bastille Day, July 14th, the day before my birthday, I had a chance to deliver a chapel talk up at Camp Hiawatha. And I've frequently seen Myrna in the chapel, and it just, you know, when Myrna arrives on the scene, it just, the place lights up. And it's just really fabulous to see. And now I can see why in a much deeper way. That's quite a thumb you've got, Myrna.
It doesn't do much.
So anybody else? If not, Will, was there anything else to say? Okay, so thank you all so much for coming. And we joked about, you know, if I didn't have this cold, we were joking about things up here. My signature song these days is a song about the state fish to the tune of Rawhide. Is that something you'd like to hear today? Seriously, I mean, for you or not, this is the best gift I can do.
I know. Betty would be so proud of you.
Yeah, you can tell Betty about this. And again, it's the cold. She's the one who sung at Carnegie Hall and all of that. But so my dad and my sister and our family had the voice. I got the height. But you know, it's a long way till early May. But I had a rehearsal at lunch today. So is this okay with everybody if we sing this song and close it out and bring it home? This was sung off the coast of Nova Scotia on a Prairie Home Companion cruise, in front of 750 cruise ship participants, half of whom were from Minnesota. So here it goes. Trolling, 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 lakes and streams are swollen, fingers nearly frozen, walleye. My heart's contemplating the big fish that's waiting at the end of my line. Don't try to understand them, just set the hook and land them. Soon we'll be listening to 'em fry. Bait 'em up, cast 'em out, bait 'em up, got 'em out, fry 'em up, walleye, got 'em out, fry 'em up, reel 'em in, walleye. Keep moving, 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 though they're disapproving. Find out where they're schooling, walleye. Don't try to understand 'em, just set the hook and land 'em. Soon we'll be listening to 'em fry.